Hello, everybody. Today it will be my eighth lecture series, and I've also mentioned in my Facebook as well as YouTube and my LinkedIn profile that I will be giving a presentation and a discussion with my friends about the indirect tax amendments of the GST and the custom duty. So we all know that I've also what I've discussed during my presentation and the session on my first lecture series about the indirect tax amendment on the GST, which has happened in the Union Budget 2026. Now, the Customs Act 1962 and the GST Act, the CGST Act or the AGST Act, are the two main areas of the indirect tax. I will come up with a separate lecture series and a session with all my friends about the definition of a direct tax and the indirect tax and what important role they play as a earning of revenue in the form of tax to the government. You all know that it is an indirect tax, so naturally the effect of burden will fall not on the taxpayer but ultimately on the consumer who is going to consume the product in the case of GST. For example, if you are buying any product with the GST, so the final consumer will bear the final tax burden. And I will come with the explanation in my next lecture of series that what is the concept of the indirect tax and what is the concept of direct tax and how the burden got shifted. So today our focus will be on the amendments only that has happened on the GST and the custom duty, which has been proposed in the Union Budget 2026. Now, the application of the Customs Act 1962 is proposed to be extended to international waters or high seas for the purpose of fishing and the fishing related activities by the Indian flagged. You have seen that in some of the movies also, as well as in some of the videos which has been posted in social media about how the Indian flags has been flagged on the Indian flagged the vessels, because no custom duty now onwards the custom duty will be levied on such fish which is being harvested by the Indian flagged, which will be bearing the Indian flag on the fishing the vessel. Now, further, such fish harvested which land at a foreign port will now be treated as an export from India. So, what happened is this: the central government has rightly observed through the sustainable harnessing of fisheries in the exclusive economic zone rules 2025, which has been notified in the territorial waters, continental shelf, and exclusive economic zone and other maritime zones of Act 1976, has declared that the fish which has been harvested in the exclusive economic zone of an Indian origin, now by exercising the rights under the Article 87 of the United Nations Convention on the Law of Sea, the fish which will be harvested by the Indian flag fishing the vessels on the high seas, that is actually beyond the exclusive economic zone, is now proposed to be of Indian origin. So those the fishing business person or who are involved in this kind of activities will now be considered as of the Indian origin, and the duty will not be extended to them. Now, what is the extension of binding of these advanced rulings? There is a change in the advanced ruling feature of the Customs Act, which is to be proposed from the current 3 years to 5 years, and this measure simplifies the trade operations, providing greater predictability for the importers and the exporters. There is a little bit of amendments also has taken place on the facilitating the ease of movement of the bonded goods. Bonded goods means the goods which is landed in our ports or airports or the rail stations by the import from the export of the products or the goods which has landed in India. That existing requirement of the prior permission of the proper officer of the customs to move the goods from one custom bonded warehouse to another is now removed. So this is a very good opportunities for the traders as well as business person who are importing the goods from abroad. That there was a little bit of difficulty of moving the goods from one bonded warehouse to another bonded warehouse, and the most important thing is that it is a kind of a simplification measure which aimed at reducing the permission and the bottlenecks, which is instead it adopt the self-assessment mechanism. On the basis of self-assessment, the vendor or the importer is going to make a self-assessment on this, and it will be accepted by the customs authorities. Now, there is also a little bit of changes or introduction of the baggage rules 2026. This is very important for all those international travelers who are traveling abroad, that with effect from 2nd of February 2026, new baggage rules has been introduced to rationalize the baggage provisions for the international passengers. And the notable allowances and changes are as follows. Now, general baggage allowances has been increased from INR 50,000, mean Indian the rupee 50,000, to INR 75,000. Now, no baggage allowances for passengers entering India through land route. If there is any baggage entering into the India, there will be no baggage allowances which is applicable earlier on earlier occasions. Now, tourists will have a duty-free baggage allowance of INR 25,000. Means these kind of changes and the amendments which has taken place is more tourist friendly to make an India as a tourist destination. Now, the thing is this, there is already a little bit of change of the personal effects. The definition of personal effect under the Customs Act has also been changed, required for satisfying the daily necessities of life and travel souvenirs carried on this person on a bona fide baggage would be allowed duty-free clearance without any kind of value limit. There is also a little bit of changes for the Indian residents, NRIs, non-resident Indians, and the OCIs. OCIs are actually overseas citizens of India, and they actually carry a card and they don't need a visa to enter into India soil. So in that case, who are living abroad of this kind of citizens for over a year can bring in duty-free jewelry up to 40 grams for female passengers and 20 grams for others in a bona fide baggage. Now, duty-free allowance under the TR have been substantially increased. A dedicated transfer of a residence scheme has been introduced for foreigners on non-tourist visas. So this is a kind of a changes which has been extended to on the area of the baggage rules. There is also a provision of cargo dual unit. There is some changes where it streamlined the trade process for the exporters and the importers by expediting out the out of charge and the late export orders. Because this kind of replacement actually introduced the manual physical examination with digitized paperless framework. The new system which significantly reduces the processing time for both the imports and the exports. Actually, this is very helpful for the importers and exporters. Now, there is also a little bit of changes has taken place in the custom duty rates, which has been proposed in the Bill 2026, and it is designed to support and promote domestic manufacturing. Now, this is being achieved by systematically reviewing and withdrawing the long-standing customs exemptions, thereby encouraging a shift towards the domestic sourcing and the supply chains. So the duty rate on the import of personal goods is said to be reduced from 20% to 10%. So it will have some cheaper side effect for the consumers at large. There is also a main area where we are going to concentrate on the place of the supply of intermediary goods, because under section 13(8)(b) of the IGST Act, means of which actually deals with the intermediary goods, is proposed to be omitted. Now, accordingly, the place of supply for the intermediate goods or the intermediaries will be determined as per the default provisions. I have also mentioned in my first lecture series about the GST treatment for the post-sale discounts and the requirement that under section 34 of the CGST Act, means the Central Goods and Service Tax Act, which provides for the requirement of the reversal of the proportionate input tax credit or the ITC by the recipient of such a discount. Means existing requirements to link post-sale discount to an agreement entered on or before the supply had created a compliance challenges and the practical difficulties. The very important thing is this to understand the proposed amendment to section 54(6) of the CGST Act is intended to extend the benefit of the provisional refund of 90% of the claims which has been arising under the inverted tax structure. Section 54(14) of the CGST Act is proposed to be amended to do away with the threshold limit for the sanction of the refund claims for the goods exported out of India with the payment of tax. So there has been some significant changes in the area of Customs Act 1962, CGST Act, as well as IGST, and the changes will keeps on have a large impact on the businesses, on the importers and exporters. So we expect that, and also end with a positive note that it will have a good effect on our businesses at large for the Indian economy. Thank you for joining us.